Have you ever considered that something you've always seen as private and harmless could, over time, be quietly wearing down your health, bit by bit? It's a topic few dare to discuss, but after the age of 70, your body no longer reacts the way it once did. What once helped you unwind or ease stress may now be quietly burdening your heart, your rest, and even your mental clarity. What makes it more alarming? The effects don't come with alarms. There's no sharp pain, no visible bruise, just a creeping fatigue, scattered thoughts, trouble sleeping, and we chalk it up to just getting older. But what if it's not? What if the real issue is that we've stopped asking questions? Because the truth is, masturbation after 70, if misunderstood or poorly timed, can pose health risks most people don't talk about. And if your first instinct is, "I'm fine," this might be the exact message you need to hear. Doctors have long known these risks, but few say them out loud, and even fewer older adults are told in time. The good news: you don't have to stop completely. You just need the right understanding so you can make informed, healthy choices and protect your well-being. Today's video is built on real research, real cases, and guidance tailored to help you maintain your quality of life, mindfully and safely. If you believe this is a topic that deserves honest discussion, give the video a like. It helps share the message. And hit follow so you don't miss important health topics designed specifically for your stage of life. Now let's begin. The first thing you need to know: this habit doesn't just affect the body, it can quietly disrupt your sleep, which is one of the most crucial pillars of health after 70. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, sweating, restless, unable to explain why? It wasn't a bad dream, it wasn't noise, just a sudden jolt of wakefulness that leaves you staring at the ceiling. If this tends to happen after relieving stress in the evening, there may be more to it than you think. Many people believe masturbation helps them sleep, and yes, in younger years, it often does. But as we age, the body's chemistry changes. What used to soothe now has the potential to disrupt. After orgasm, your body releases cortisol, the hormone linked to alertness and stress. And at the same time, melatonin, the hormone responsible for deep, uninterrupted sleep, may be suppressed. For younger adults, this imbalance is quickly corrected. But at 70 plus, your nervous system is more sensitive. Even small disruptions can derail your entire night. In fact, a Stanford study shows that melatonin levels in older adults can drop by up to 50%, meaning your ability to bounce back from anything that interferes with sleep is already reduced. If you unintentionally interfere with what little melatonin your body still makes, the result could be chronic insomnia. And over time, that can lead to memory issues, increased risk of falling, and even a higher chance of Alzheimer's. Dr. Lisa Cummings, a sleep specialist in New York, once shared the story of Mr. Walter, age 74. No medications, generally healthy, but every few nights, he'd stay awake until dawn, restless and frustrated. It wasn't until he admitted to regularly masturbating before bed that she connected the dots. She suggested he shift the habit to earlier in the day, and within 2 weeks, Walter was sleeping 6 to 7 uninterrupted hours each night. No pills, no 3 a.m. wake-ups. It wasn't about stopping altogether. It was about making the right adjustment for his age, his biology, and his peace of mind. Because sleep after 70 isn't just about rest. It's about preserving your memory, your balance, and your long-term independence. So if you've been struggling with your nights and nothing else seems to help, maybe it's time to look at one habit no one's talked to you about until now. The danger is this: the more we lose sleep, the more we tend to rely on habits that help us fall asleep just for now. And that's when the downward spiral begins. But you don't have to overhaul your whole routine. In fact, one small change, like moving your relaxation time to the morning or early afternoon when the light is still soft, can gently reset your rhythm. Instead of leaning on old, familiar routines, why not try something new? A warm foot soak before bed, a little soft jazz from your local FM station, or even just jotting down a few thoughts in a notebook. Sometimes these small, quiet rituals help more than any pill or program. And when you wake the next morning, it's not just your body that feels rested, It's your mind, too. Light, calm, clear. Because the very habits that once helped us drift off in our 20s might be the ones keeping us awake in our 70s. But sleep is only part of the story, because when a habit becomes too frequent, especially one that overstimulates, it's not just your mind that pays the price. Your heart may be under more strain than you realize. Did you know that just a few minutes of intense excitement can make a heart over 70 work twice as hard? It may sound dramatic, but think of it like climbing a steep hill. Without warning, without warm-up, and all alone, your heart has to race to keep up. That's what happens when the body is suddenly overstimulated, especially without emotional or physical preparation. After 70, the heart isn't as resilient. Blood vessels stiffen, blood pressure becomes less predictable, and what once felt harmless can now trigger a sharp spike in just seconds. A Mayo Clinic study found that over 63% of people over 70 experienced irregular heartbeats or dizziness after reaching orgasm, particularly when the moment came without buildup or connection. Cardiologist Dr. Peter Malloy in Chicago explains, "It's not the act itself that's dangerous. It's the intensity and frequency exceeding what the body can handle. The heart needs more patience now." Just ask Mr. Robert, 76, a retired firefighter. One night he tried to unwind close to midnight. Soon after he felt tightness in his chest and shortness of breath. At first he brushed it off as just getting older. But 3 days later he was in the hospital with a mild cardiac ischemia. The doctor said he was lucky, any later, and it might have been a full heart attack. What's scary is that the body doesn't always sound an alarm. Instead, it slowly stacks the strain until one small moment pushes everything over the edge. But there's a gentler path. If your body feels like it's not keeping up, don't push it. Listen to it. Instead of intensity, try stillness, a meditation, an evening stroll, a long, wordless hug with your partner. Because connection doesn't always need a climax, and sometimes a quiet, steady heartbeat is the truest sign of lasting health. This heart has carried you through decades of joy, pain, love, and change. And now it deserves to be treated with the gentleness it's earned. And when the heart is overworked, there's another part of you that quietly begins to feel the strain. Your nervous system, the command center for emotion, motivation, and your sense of purpose. Have you ever felt drained and couldn't explain why? Not from poor sleep, not from illness, but from a quiet kind of emptiness that leaves you tired, even when you haven't done anything at all. One thing many people overlook: after the age of 70, the brain needs more dopamine, the chemical that fuels motivation, joy, and the simple desire to get up and do something. But when we rely too often on quick, solitary sources of pleasure, like frequent private relief, the brain starts to expect dopamine in fast, shallow bursts. It's like eating too much refined sugar, a sudden high, followed by a crash. Neurologists at Johns Hopkins have observed that when pleasure-seeking happens repeatedly without emotional connection, the brain can become lazy in producing its own natural dopamine. The result: a subtle but steady loss of enthusiasm for anything. Take Mrs. Ellie, 73. She once spent every Saturday morning in her garden or baking treats for her friends. But after a period of living alone, her days became quieter, her habits more solitary, and the joy she once felt in small things slowly disappeared. She didn't notice it happening at first. She was simply passing time. But after visiting a psychologist, she learned she was experiencing anhedonia, a condition that often precedes depression, where pleasure fades and the world starts to feel flat. It doesn't hit all at once. It sneaks in. Day by day, night by night, it dims the spark in on. But here's the hopeful part. You don't have to give up your routines. You just have to reconnect with what brings meaning. Try turning on a familiar radio station, watering your plants with morning light, scribbling a thought in a journal, or inviting someone over to bake, even if the cake flops. Dopamine can also come from a shared laugh, warm sun on your face, or hearing someone say your name with kindness. Sometimes what we need most isn't satisfaction. It's simply a reason to wake up with a lighter heart. And when that spark fades, loneliness often steps in, quietly but deeply. Because when we repeat private habits in place of real connection, we don't just feel empty, we begin to disconnect from life itself. Have you ever turned out the lights at night, laid down, and felt nothing? Not happy, not sad, just blank. Many over 70 know that feeling well. Oddly, it tends to show up more when we rely too heavily on solitude for comfort. That includes private, physical routines like masturbation. There's nothing wrong with having those needs. Privacy and pleasure are part of being human. But when that becomes the only way we soothe ourselves, it can reinforce a far more dangerous feeling: disconnection. Dr. Amy L. Thompson, a geriatric mental health expert in California, has found that older adults who substitute solitary pleasure for social connection face nearly double the risk of hidden depression compared to those who maintain regular communication. Mr. Harold, 79, from Brooklyn, knows this too well. After losing his wife, he gradually stopped going out, stayed home with the TV on, and turned to solo habits to pass the time. "I thought I was fine," he said. "I wasn't bothering anyone. I didn't feel sad." But slowly he stopped sleeping well. Life felt dull. He questioned his purpose. It wasn't until he joined a painting class at the senior center, heard laughter, shared stories, felt seen, that he realized how lonely he had become. Because the truth is, no private routine can replace the feeling of someone truly listening to you. So the answer isn't to cut out the habit, it's to make sure it doesn't become your only refuge. A short call to an old friend, a walk through a busy park, an hour spent hearing someone else's story, all these remind you you still belong to something beyond your walls. Depression in old age doesn't always show up with tears. More often, it comes as silence that lingers too long. And if you feel that emptiness today, try reaching out. You don't need to say anything profound. Just ask, "How have you been lately?" The warmth in their response might be all it takes to lift the fog. Because what's even more concerning is when a quiet, familiar habit begins to cover up something deeper. When it starts to mask the soft signals your body is trying to send. And at this age, those signals are often easy to miss, but too important to ignore. And the scary part is, these signs are easy to ignore when we tell ourselves, "It's probably nothing, just something personal." Imagine this: you feel lower back pain after using the bathroom. You notice you're going more often, there's a slight burning sensation, or maybe even the occasional leak. But instead of paying attention, you quietly think, "Maybe I just overdid it." And then you don't see a doctor. Weeks go by. That's exactly how early warning signs of conditions like an enlarged prostate, hormonal imbalances, or even type 2 diabetes slip under the radar because we keep convincing ourselves we're still doing fine. Dr. Raymond Bouchard, a geriatric specialist in New Jersey, says, "A lot of cases are caught late simply because people hesitate to bring up symptoms that feel too private. Many confuse fatigue, urinary changes, or even a drop in libido with just getting older, or something they shouldn't talk about." Mr. Dennis, 75, from Seattle, had been feeling off after every time he was intimate with himself. Frequent trips to the bathroom, slight discomfort, even occasional shortness of breath. But he didn't mention it to his doctor, afraid of embarrassment or brushing it off as just aging. When he finally collapsed and his daughter took him to the ER, doctors realized he had been showing signs of type 2 diabetes for nearly 8 months, unnoticed. When the doctor told him, "If only you had come in sooner," he just sat there, quiet. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is thinking, "Well, I'm still functioning, so I must be okay." But just because you can keep going doesn't mean you're in good health. If something feels off, a weird fatigue, a flutter in your chest, or something that just doesn't feel normal after you've relieved yourself, don't dismiss it. That's your body whispering. And your body doesn't lie, it just hopes you're listening. Seeing a doctor doesn't mean you're weak. It means you are wise enough to answer a whisper now, before it turns into a shout later. Maybe after this video you're asking yourself, have I ignored something I shouldn't have? Am I repeating a habit I've always assumed was harmless? Those are good questions, because the moment you start asking them is when you start really taking care of yourself. Let's be clear, masturbation at any age isn't wrong, but after 70, your body changes. What used to be routine can now have more noticeable effects. And sometimes even a small adjustment can help you sleep better, feel lighter, and breathe more easily through your days. You don't have to overhaul your life. Just start by tuning in more. Notice how your heart responds when you're stressed. Pay attention to how you feel emotionally afterward. And above all, don't hesitate to talk to your doctor if something feels off. There's no shame. Nothing is too minor to matter. You deserve good health, physical, emotional, and everything in between. Not just to live longer, but to live with comfort, confidence, and peace in your own skin. If this message helped you in any way, consider sharing it with a friend, someone who may be quietly wondering the same things, unsure of who to talk to. And if you have a small habit or insight that helps you feel grounded, leave a comment below. I read everyone, and your words might just help someone else feel seen. Thank you for spending this time with me. Wishing you a day full of ease and a truly peaceful, fulfilling journey through these later years.